you're an experienced actor, director, and writer, so you've been on all ends of that. If you're working, let's say, with a first-time, as an actor, with a first-time director, just tell me a little bit about actually working with someone who perhaps doesn't have as much experience as you do, and how you deal with them.
As an actor working with
a first-time director, let's say.
First-time director?
Again, a lot of the people that will be watching this are students who will be coming out of school soon or out of the NSI soon, and they'll be working in some cases with actors, that have considerably more experience. Just talk to me, I guess, about the collaborative process, or do you offer help? How does it work?
I think, the working with someone who's first time, I haven't done that very often. Right. But when I have done it, I think it's usually an experience that you kind of feel out what you need to know what you need in order to do the job you've been asked to do, and then you can kind of see where you can help that other person along. Right. I think it's always daunting if you're a first-time director, because you're inevitably going to say stupid things, and you're inevitably going to make crazy mistakes, and you are going to cross the axis at some point that day, unless that's the only thing you learn at film school, and then everything else will be awful. There's something you're going to do that's crazy, and the trick is to not feel intimidated from asking for advice. I think and so I don't know that I would particularly go and try to push somebody around. I remember being on one film and saying to the director, who was a first-time director, "Well, do you want to get a wide shot of this?" "No, I don't need it." I said, "Well, you might not think you need it now, but I've kind of just gone through this process, and actually, I wish the hell I'd had a lot more shots than I thought I needed." And then he said, no, I don't need it. And then did come up to me quite some time later when the film was finished and said, that shot you were talking about? I really wished I'd had that shot. So, it's hard to know how, but I think that's just a relationship that unfolds, that creative relationship kind of unfolds naturally anyway. And certainly I'd always offer advice and stuff. I think one of the things that directors can make a terrible mistake of with actors, if they're not used to them, or if they didn't come up through that field, if they come from a more technical route in, is the notes are too much, too many, and too long. I actually really like notes that are to talk louder, talk softer, talk faster, talk slower. Right. And that'll turn into something else in my head. There's a great story about Elliot Kazan talks about Brando. He says when he first working with Brando, it was just so disconcerting, because he'd go up to him and say, "Marlon, that's really great, but I think I'm sort of thinking that it's a bit denser than what," and he said, and then Brando would just turn away and walk away from me. And I wasn't even half near finished what I was going to say. And then he said, "All right, well, we'll do another take." And they do a take, and Brando would do everything I was going to say. And somehow he just got what he needed to hear, and when he got it, he left you. Right. He said, after that, I stopped worrying so much.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm certainly not comparing myself to Brando, but I feel like it's sort of the same way. Someone will start directing, and think, "Oh, I know what to do." And then I won't exactly leave, but I'll just try and tune it out. Right. So I think it's important to trust the people around you. And I think it's also, it's very difficult for that relationship between an actor and a director can be very complicated. Mm-hmm. Actors need the director's approval, but they resent the sort of slavery of it. Right. Directors are looking for actors to do something, and they resent the kind of independent power that actors have. They have the responsibility, but they don't actually have the control. Right. So it is a peculiar balance. And I think most people go into it with the assumption that somehow we will find that balance. And I think for people working with first-time people on either side, that the gift of patience is really important. And for the nervous person who's the first time in a position, just that we're all here trying to make this work. But it can get sort of rough if things. Right. If the distrust enters into it.
Well, absolutely, and it poisons the whole thing, right? Yeah. Well, I've always been told, and it's the hardest thing to do, but relax. First timers, relax. It's because it will be better. You'll think clearer. You'll be more focused ultimately.
Yeah, I think that is really the advice of relax is great, and try not to panic. Yeah. Because there are a million things on a set that, as a director, they're trying to make you panic.
Right. Yeah.
It's a lot of what you feel. I'm supposed to panic now.
Well, Passchendaele must have been ripe with those things. I mean, I think of the battle scenes. I think of, it was
pretty crazy, but we were so well prepared. Right. I mean, my advice to a director is you cannot prepare enough.
Right.
Just can't. Something's going to go wrong. As long as you've got everything else covered, you can handle that particular problem.
Right.
But if you haven't got everything else covered and that goes wrong, then everything is a problem. But we had lots of weird. Yeah. Crazy things happen, but in the end, we were under budget and on schedule. So right. That's a credit to the team around in the AD department and stuff. But we had to be very flexible, and I think it helped a lot. Having done a couple of other things, but Men with Brooms particularly, where we had all sorts of terrible trouble with the whole curling sequences of that because we didn't have any ice.
Really?
Yeah. When we were shooting the hottest May on record or something, and the ice would melt. I would have about 2 hours with ice, and then it would go wet, and then the stones don't move.
Right.
And so you'd come with these shot lists, but you kind of had to throw them out and improvise. So it was, and I was in no way, shape, or form ready to be doing that kind of thing. I had no idea what I was doing. So that did just flip me out.
Yeah.
I thought, I don't know whether I've covered this or that. I'm making scenes up on the fly, and it was terrible. And we had a similar kind of issue with Passchendaele because we were chasing weather around.
Right.
And because Alberta's noted for sunny skies, and we needed gray rain.
Right.
So if it was big sunny, we'd have to scrap the big shots and go into stuff that we could silk and cover.
Right.
So all of the battlefield was a pretty much improvised shooting schedule. So we had everybody there at the top of the day. All the soldiers, all the bombs, all the everything.
Costume, the whole thing, yeah.
And I'd look around and say, okay, we're going to do this. And then poof, everything would go into...
Wow.
But by that time, I was kind of okay about it. I'd stopped being panicked.